You've worked hard. You've set goals. You've tried again and again, and yet nothing seems to stick. But what if I told you that all your effort wasn't wasted? You were simply building a house without laying the foundation first. I want to talk with you tonight about something that may very well change the entire direction of your life. Not because I have some secret to sell you, but because I'm going to remind you of a truth you've always known but perhaps never fully understood. You've been working hard, haven't you? You've read the books, attended the seminars, set the goals, made the plans. You've pushed yourself, sacrificed your time, maybe even your comfort. And yet, here you are, wondering why it hasn't worked, why the results you expected haven't materialized, why success still feels just out of reach. Let me tell you why. You weren't doing anything wrong. You were simply missing the one law that makes everything else work. And without it, all your effort was like trying to grow a garden in soil that hasn't been prepared. The seeds were good. Your intentions were good. But the foundation wasn't there. The law I'm talking about is this: you become what you think about. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've heard this before. It sounds simple, perhaps too simple. But here's what most people miss. They hear it. They nod. They agree with it intellectually. And then they go right back to thinking the same thoughts they've always thought. They don't actually change what occupies their mind day after day, hour after hour. You see, success is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of law. Just as surely as planting corn will yield corn and not tomatoes, thinking about success, abundance, and growth will yield success, abundance, and growth in your life. But most people spend their days thinking about their problems, their fears, what they don't want, what might go wrong. And then they wonder why their lives reflect exactly that. This is the missing piece. This is why nothing worked until now. All those techniques you tried, all those strategies, all that effort, they were built on sand. They were built on scattered, unfocused, fearful thinking. And no amount of action can overcome the law of cause and effect when your mind is working against you. Here's the truth, plain and simple. Your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever possess. It is a goal-seeking mechanism. It will move you toward whatever you consistently hold in your thoughts. If you think about worry, you'll find more to worry about. If you think about lack, you'll experience lack. But if you think about your goals, about the person you're becoming, about the contribution you're making, your mind will find a way to make it real. The reason your past efforts didn't work is because you were trying to change your circumstances without first changing your thinking. You were trying to paint a new picture without changing the canvas. You were working from the outside in when the law requires you to work from the inside out. Let me give you something practical, something you can do right now, today. First, decide exactly what it is you want. Not what you think you should want, not what someone else wants for you, but what you truly, deeply desire for your life. Write it down, make it clear, make it specific. Second, think about that goal deliberately, every single day. Morning and night at minimum. Picture it as if it's already real. Feel the emotions of having achieved it. Let your mind dwell on it until it becomes more familiar than your current circumstances. Third, act in harmony with that thought. This is where your previous efforts come back to serve you. All those books you read, all those skills you developed, they weren't wasted, they were preparation. Now, aligned with the right thinking, they will produce results. Fourth, refuse to entertain thoughts that contradict your goal. When doubt creeps in, and it will, don't fight it. Simply replace it. Turn your mind back to your vision. This is a discipline, not a feeling. You do it whether you feel like it or not. And fifth, understand this. The law is always working. You can't turn it off. You're thinking about something right now, and that something is shaping your tomorrow. The question is not whether the law works. The question is whether you're going to use it deliberately or let it use you by default. You see, most people are sleepwalking through life. They're reacting to circumstances instead of creating them. They're allowing the news, the opinions of others, their past failures to occupy the throne of their mind. And then they wonder why life feels like a struggle. But you don't have to live that way. You never did. The moment you take control of your thinking, the moment you decide what will occupy your mind, you take control of your life. It's not magic. It's law. As certain as the law of gravity, as reliable as the changing of the seasons. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. Everything you've tried in the past, All the hard work, all the effort, it's not wasted. It's been building something. But until now, you've been building without a blueprint. You've been constructing without a foundation. The law of thought is that blueprint. It's that foundation. When you align your thinking with your goals, when you make your mind your servant instead of your master, something remarkable happens. All those puzzle pieces start to fit together. The people you need appear. The opportunities you've been hoping for present themselves. Not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because your mind, now focused and directed, recognizes and seizes what was always there. This is why some people seem to have all the luck. They don't. They simply understand the law. They've trained their minds to focus on what they want, and their minds have delivered. So let me ask you, what have you been thinking about? Really thinking about. Not what you say you want, but where does your mind go when it wanders? Because that's what you're creating. That's what you're becoming. If you don't like where you are, if you're frustrated with your results, don't blame the world. Don't blame your circumstances. Don't even blame yourself. Simply recognize that you've been using the most powerful force in your life, your mind, without direction. And now you're going to change that. We become what we think about. This is the strangest secret, and it is also the one law that makes all other laws of success work. You have everything you need right now to begin. You don't need more information. You don't need better circumstances. You don't need anyone's permission. You need only to decide what you want, and then discipline your mind to think about it consistently, deliberately, and with faith. This is why nothing worked until now. You were missing the foundation. You were building without the blueprint. But now you know. Now you understand. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you nod your head, agree with what I've said, and then go back to the same patterns of thinking that brought you to this moment? Or will you take this law seriously? Will you commit to controlling your thoughts the way a gardener tends to his soil, the way a craftsman cares for his tools? Because I can promise you this, if you apply this law, if you make it the center of everything you do, your life will change. Not someday, not eventually. It will begin to change today. The moment you change your thinking, you change your trajectory. So here's what I want you to do tonight. Before you go to sleep, I want you to write down your goal. One clear, definite goal. Not a wish, not a hope. A decision. Tomorrow morning, before you do anything else, I want you to read that goal. I want you to picture it. I want you to think about it until it feels real. And then, during the day, I want you to catch yourself whenever your mind wanders to worry, to doubt, to fear. And when you catch it, gently but firmly, turn it back to your goal. Turn it back to what you want, not what you fear. Do this every day. Not for a week. Not until you feel better. Do it until it becomes who you are. This is the law. This is the missing piece. And it has been waiting for you all along. You have the power. You've always had it. Now use it. Thank you for listening. And good night. You know, I've met countless people over the years who live in quiet desperation. They work hard, sometimes harder than those who seem to have everything. They try new approaches, chase opportunities, stay up late planning and hoping. And yet, year after year, nothing changes. The promotion goes to someone else. The business idea fizzles out. The financial situation stays exactly the same. And slowly, a terrible thought begins to take root in their minds. Maybe success just isn't meant for me. Maybe I'm not one of the lucky ones. Now, before you agree or disagree with that thought, I want you to consider something with me for just a moment. Think about the physical world around you. When you drop a stone, does it sometimes fall and sometimes float? When you plant an apple seed, does it occasionally produce oranges? When you turn on a light switch, does electricity work only for certain people on certain days? Of course not. These things operate according to law. Consistent, predictable, unchanging law. Here's what I want you to understand, and I mean really understand, deep in your bones the world of achievement, success, and prosperity operates by law just as surely as the physical world does. There is no luck. There never was. What we call luck is simply the visible result of invisible laws being applied, whether the person knows it or not. Let me tell you what this means for you. Every successful person you've ever observed, every achievement you've ever witnessed, every fortune ever built, came about because certain laws were followed. Not bent, not negotiated with, followed. These people weren't chosen by fate. They weren't blessed with some magical advantage you don't have. They simply aligned themselves, consciously or unconsciously, with laws that govern success. The law of cause and effect for every result you see. There was a cause that produced it. The law of sowing and reaping. You will harvest exactly what you plant. The law of attraction, you move toward and attract what you consistently think about. The law of growth, whatever you focus on expands in your life. These aren't theories. These aren't suggestions. These are laws as real and as reliable as the law of gravity. Now here's the beautiful part, and I want you to really hear this. If success follows law, then success is available to anyone willing to follow those laws. You don't need permission. You don't need credentials. You don't need to be lucky. You need only to understand the laws and apply them. Think about what this means. It means that your past doesn't determine your future unless you let it. It means that where you came from doesn't matter nearly as much as where you're going. It means that the results you've gotten up until now were simply the natural consequence of the laws you've been following, knowingly or unknowingly. When things haven't worked out, it wasn't because you were unlucky. It was because you were unknowingly violating the laws that govern success. Perhaps you were sowing seeds of doubt, but expecting a harvest of confidence. Perhaps you were thinking about failure, but hoping for success. Perhaps you were giving minimal effort, but expecting maximum results. But here's the liberating truth: the moment you understand the laws, the moment you align yourself with them, they begin working for you with the same reliability that they've been working against you. The same laws, the same universe. The only difference is your understanding and application. You are not at the mercy of chance. You are not a leaf blown by the wind of circumstance. You are a human being with the power to think, to choose, to direct your mind, and therefore to direct your life. And when you operate in harmony with the laws that govern success, success becomes not a matter of if, but when. This is not inspiration. This is information, and it changes everything. I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Imagine a person who wakes up every morning with a headache. Day after day, month after month, the same throbbing pain. So naturally, this person does what seems logical. They take aspirin, lots of it. They try different brands, different dosages, different times of day. And sure enough, the headache goes away for a while. But it always comes back, always. And after years of this, they're exhausted, frustrated, and wondering why nothing seems to permanently fix the problem. Meanwhile, the real issue, an undetected issue with their vision requiring glasses, remains completely unaddressed. That's you. That's most people, actually. And I don't say that to be harsh. I say it because I've watched it happen thousands of times, and I've done it myself. You've been trying to solve the wrong problem. Let me give you a moment to let that settle. Not to make you defensive, but to make you curious. You see, when things aren't working in your life, when success feels elusive, your natural instinct is to look at your methods. You think, I need a better strategy. I need more skills. I need better connections. I need more time, more money, more resources. So you go after those things. You read the books about productivity. You learn the networking techniques. You chase the opportunities. And some of it helps for a while. But somehow you end up right back where you started, wondering why the fundamental situation hasn't changed. Here's what's actually happening. You've been trying to fix your circumstances when the real problem is your paradigm. You've been adjusting your tactics when what needs adjusting is your thinking. You've been working on the symptoms while the cause goes untouched. Most people believe their problem is external. Not enough money, not enough opportunity, not the right job, not the right market, not the right timing. And so they spend all their energy trying to change those external conditions. They're pushing boulders uphill, day after day, wondering why it's so exhausting and why the boulders keep rolling back down. But the real problem has never been external. It's internal. It's the habitual pattern of thought that keeps recreating the same results. It's the self-image that says, "This is who I am," when you're capable of so much more. It's the mental programming that runs automatically, beneath your awareness, directing your choices, your actions, your responses to everything that happens. You cannot solve an internal problem with an external solution. You can't think poverty and create wealth. You can't think limitation and create expansion. You can't think like an employee and build an empire. The methods don't matter if the mind hasn't changed first. And here's the wonderful news, the truly liberating truth about all of this. Once you identify the real problem, Once you see that it's not your circumstances, but your consciousness that needs attention, everything becomes simpler. Not easier, necessarily, but simpler. Because you're no longer fighting 100 different battles on 100 different fronts. You're addressing the one thing that controls everything else, your habitual way of thinking. When you change the way you think about yourself, about your possibilities, about what you deserve and what you're capable of, the external circumstances begin to rearrange themselves naturally. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You start noticing opportunities that were always there. You start responding to challenges differently. You start making choices that align with your goal instead of your fear. The problem was never your strategy. The problem was never your circumstances. The problem was that you were trying to change your life without changing your mind. And that, my friend, cannot be done. It's like trying to change your reflection without changing yourself. It's like expecting different fruit from the same root. But now you know. Now you can stop exhausting yourself solving the wrong problem and start addressing the real one. And when you do, everything else falls into place. There's a particular kind of hopelessness that sets in when you believe you're missing something essential. You look at successful people and think, they have something I don't. Some special gift. Some secret knowledge. Some ingredient that was handed out when I wasn't in line. And the more you search for this missing piece, the more elusive it becomes. You read another book, attend another seminar, follow another expert, always hoping that this time, this will be the thing that finally gives you what you lack. But nothing ever quite fills that void, does it? Because deep down, you're convinced that whatever you need is out there, somewhere, just beyond your reach. Now, I want you to stop for a moment and consider something that might sound strange at first. What if the very thing you've been searching for has been with you all along? What if you've been looking outside for something that only exists inside? You see, the law that governs success, the principle that makes everything else work, isn't something you need to acquire. It's not a skill you need to develop or a credential you need to earn. It's not hidden in some exclusive program or guarded by some elite group. It's already within you. It always has been. You were born with it, the same way you were born with the ability to think, to choose, to imagine. The law is this: your mind moves you toward whatever you hold in your dominant thoughts. This isn't something you need to install, it's already operating. Right now, as you listen to these words, this law is working in your life. It's been working since you were old enough to think. The question has never been whether you have this power. The question is whether you're using it deliberately or letting it run on default. Think about a time when you worried intensely about something. Perhaps you worried about being late, about making a mistake, about missing an opportunity. And somehow, the very thing you worried about seemed to materialize. That wasn't coincidence. That was the law at work. Your mind, focused on that thought, moved you toward it. You noticed things that confirmed it. You made small choices that brought it closer. You attracted circumstances that matched your dominant mental picture. The same mechanism that creates what you fear creates what you desire. It's the same law, the same mind, the same power. You've been using it all along. You just haven't been directing it consciously. And here's what changes everything the moment you realize this power is already yours. You stop searching and start activating. You stop looking for the secret and start using the truth. You stop waiting for permission and start taking authority over your own thoughts. You don't need anything added to you. You need something awakened within you. You don't need more information flooding in from outside. You need to take dominion over the information already circulating inside your mind. Every thought you think is either building the life you want or building the life you don't want. There is no neutral. The law is always working. Most people go through life like someone sitting in a car with a powerful engine, complaining that they're not getting anywhere, never realizing they haven't turned the key. The power is there. The vehicle is there. Everything you need is there. You just haven't engaged it deliberately. The missing law isn't missing at all. It's been operating in your life every single day. The difference between where you are and where you want to be isn't about acquiring some new power. It's about directing the power you already possess. It's about thinking on purpose instead of by accident. It's about choosing your thoughts the way you choose your clothes, your food, your friends. You have everything you need right now. You always did. The search is over. Now the work begins. And the work is simply this: think about what you want instead of what you fear. Do it deliberately. Do it consistently. Do it until it becomes automatic. That's the law. And it's already yours. You've been consistent before, haven't you? You've shown up. You've put in the hours. You've done the work, day after day, week after week, sometimes month after month. And yet, despite all that consistency, despite all that discipline, the results never seem to match the effort. Eventually, you start to wonder if consistency even matters. You look at all that invested time and energy and think, what was the point? I did everything right, and I'm still here, still stuck, still waiting for something to change. And slowly, a dangerous thought takes hold. Maybe hard work doesn't actually pay off. Maybe persistence is just another lie they tell you. But before you accept that conclusion, before you decide that consistency doesn't work, I need you to consider something important. There's a difference between being consistent and being consistently aligned with truth. One is effort. The other is effective effort. And that difference, small as it sounds, changes everything. You see, you can be remarkably consistent doing the wrong thing. You can show up every single day, disciplined and determined, and still not get where you want to go if you're pointed in the wrong direction. A person can spend years climbing a ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Their consistency was admirable. Their direction was flawed. This is what's been happening. You've been consistent with your actions, but your actions have been built on a foundation of wrong thinking. You've been working hard, but your thoughts haven't been working with you. They've been working against you. You've been sowing one kind of seed in your mind while hoping for a different harvest in your life. And no amount of consistency can overcome that fundamental misalignment. Let me give you an example. A person sets a goal to build wealth. They work overtime. They save money. They follow the budget. They're disciplined. They're consistent. Every day their dominant thoughts are about lack, about not having enough, about how hard money is to come by, about all the obstacles in their way. They're being consistent with their actions, yes, but their thoughts are canceling out every bit of progress. They're planting weeds while expecting roses. But here's the remarkable thing, and this is what I want you to really understand. The moment you become consistent with the right thinking, all your previous efforts suddenly start to bear fruit. It's as if everything you've done up until now was an investment waiting for the proper foundation to rest upon. The skills you develop don't disappear. The knowledge you gain doesn't vanish. The work you put in doesn't evaporate. It was all preparation. It just needed to be rooted in truth to actually compound. Consistency rooted in truth is like compound interest in a bank. It doesn't just add up, it multiplies. Every day you think correctly about your goal. Every day you align your thoughts with what you want instead of what you fear. The effect of your efforts grows exponentially. Small actions repeated with the right mental foundation create enormous results. But those same small actions, repeated without that foundation, create frustration. This is why some people seem to succeed effortlessly while others struggle despite working twice as hard. It's not the effort, it's the alignment. One person's consistency is built on a foundation of confident expectation. The other person's consistency is built on a foundation of doubt and hope. Same effort, different results. And here's the wonderful truth: you haven't wasted your time. Every bit of work you've put in, every skill you've developed, every hour you've invested, it's all been stored up. It's all been building something. But now, when you root your consistency in the truth that you become what you think about, when you align your daily thoughts with your daily actions, everything you've built will suddenly begin to produce. The harvest isn't lost. It was just delayed, waiting for the proper conditions. Your consistency was never the problem. Your foundation was. Fix the foundation, keep the consistency, and watch what happens. You're tired, aren't you? Not just physically tired, though that's certainly part of it. But there's a deeper exhaustion that's settled into your bones. You wake up tired. You go through your day tired. You go to bed tired. And it's not because you're lazy. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You're tired because you've been working so hard, pushing so relentlessly, giving so much of yourself, and still feeling like you're getting nowhere. It's the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind of tired that makes you wonder if this is just what life is now. Endless effort with nothing to show for it. And the worst part, you don't know how much longer you can keep this up. Now, Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. What if the exhaustion you're feeling isn't because you're doing too much? What if it's because what you're doing isn't connected to what you're thinking? Here's what I've observed over many years of studying successful people and unsuccessful people. The unsuccessful ones are often the busiest. They're in constant motion. They're always doing something, chasing something, trying something. But there's no cohesion to it. Their actions are going in one direction while their thoughts are going in another. And that internal conflict, that misalignment between what they're doing and what they're believing, creates a friction that drains them completely. It's like driving a car with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. Yes, the engine is working. Yes, you're burning fuel. Yes, you're exerting tremendous effort, but you're not actually going anywhere. And the strain on the vehicle, the heat, the wear and tear, it's destroying the machine. That's what happens to a human being when their actions and their thoughts are not aligned. They burn out. Think about the last time you worked on something you truly believed in. Something where your mind and your efforts were moving in the same direction. Do you remember how different that felt? Yes, you might have been physically tired at the end of the day, but it was a good tired. A satisfying tired. You slept well. You woke up ready to continue. That's because there was no internal resistance. Your actions flowed naturally from your beliefs, and your energy, instead of being wasted on internal conflict, was channeled entirely into productive work. This is what's been missing. You've been taking action, massive action in many cases, but that action hasn't been rooted in aligned thinking. Part of you is working toward your goal while another part of you is thinking about all the reasons it won't work. Part of you is moving forward while another part is bracing for failure. And that internal tug of war is exhausting you. But here's what changes when you get your thoughts and actions aligned. Work stops feeling like war. It doesn't become easy necessarily, but it becomes natural. Effort doesn't drain you, it energizes you. You find yourself with stamina you didn't know you had. Not because you've suddenly become stronger, but because you've stopped fighting yourself. All that energy that was being burned up in internal conflict is now available for actual progress. When your mind believes what your hands are doing, when your thoughts support your actions instead of sabotaging them, something remarkable happens. You still work hard, you still face challenges, but you're no longer exhausted by the work itself. You're fueled by it, because alignment creates momentum, and momentum creates energy. The exhaustion you feel isn't a sign that you need to work less. It's a sign that you need to align more. Get your thinking in harmony with your doing, and you'll discover reserves of energy you forgot you had. The work doesn't get lighter, but you get stronger. Not through force, but through flow. You weren't meant to spend your life exhausted and empty. You were meant to spend it engaged and alive. And the difference between those two experiences is simply this: alignment.